Really don't want to talk. You should have added reviews that were already there. Should have added some reviews. Think about that.
We can to show when it pops up. At least generate something. I don't know.
But what are we going to rate?
I don't know.
Okay, thank you everyone. So the impetus for our project was we wanted to create a method in which a user could create and store their favorite things, just a collection of their favorite things, whether that be music, movies, TV shows, books, restaurants, food, whatever. We were unable to complete our task. We have working but not accessible at this current moment authentication through Google, where you can log in with your Google ID and that gets stored to the database and then gets encrypted in a cookie stored onto the browser for 24 hours, after which the user would then need to re-authenticate themselves. The items available in the database would be and are supposed to be available to each unique user, and you should be able to share them with friends. This did not happen.
That API is first class bitch, isn't it?
It's fine. It could be worse.
Definitely.
Passport.js is what we utilize. Passport.js. We got it working in an afternoon or so, but the actual problem is I actually had a loss in my family a week ago today, and I was unable to assist my team.
I won't say that. It wasn't. That was not the reason. When we first started, we came up with an outline, but there was just no stages. So without stages, you have nothing to complete. So when people leave, they're just doing stuff, and that was the main problem. Because if there was stages, we could have completed things, but there was no stages. So as you see, nothing is completed. I had the authorization working with Nick because he took the time to show me. It was not really teamwork. It seemed from the beginning it was thought of, let's have Michael do everything and ride that Michael horse. And so when the Michael horse wasn't there and there was no stages, everything fell completely apart. So that's the reality of that. Can't blame one person for anything because it's a team effort. So, yeah.
You were not a part of.
There's none of my code in this now because it was
Stop.
It was just not a team effort.
Stop.
Stop.
This.
So how does it flow from where?
Right now, you can post a review. It's just not going to the database. So like if I were to go here, and
it goes to the database, but it doesn't.
Right, it doesn't pull. So we can post, like if you were to type into the boxes, it would post the review to the page, and it would save it there, but it's just not pulling from the database. So we do have at least a visual to where it would, but.
Okay, so you can walk us through the concept of what are the database tables you guys envision?
So we had two tables defined through SQLize. We had a user table where we were able to store the unique user ID that was provided by Google, as well as a username. We were going to be storing the display name that's provided by Google, which generally provides the first and last name. And then we also had our unique ID for the individual, which that is the one that we use to serialize and store into a cookie onto the user's computer, onto the browser. The other table that we had defined in SQLize was an items table, which was supposed to be a generic table where you would be able to store the title like the name of the thing that you were tagging or reviewing or however you want to refer it to as your review, if you liked it or not, a little like button.
I like our little.
And it would then have a foreign ID to associate it with that user, as well as another column type to identify specifically what it is that is being reviewed. Like, what is the thing? Is it a book? Is it a movie? Is it a TV show? Music? Whatever. And those would be the things that are stored on the database.
So it seems like there's a category,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yes.
then so you have category and the actual items in the same table, or right now that's the concept. Right?
Yes.
It's on the same table.
You do a join with the user.
Yes. Yeah. So in SQLize, we defined it as the users has many items, and the items belong to the user. If anybody has been scarred by those words, I'm sorry. I should have placed a trigger warning. I know. But,
Right. So next question. It's more about the authentication. Joshua mentioned passport. So walk us through what's the process? How does
He
it?
changed it, so I had it.
No, whatever you
Right,
had,
right.
it's fine. What's the concept of passport? It's interesting.
Passport, it just allows you to kind of be like middleware between Google and whatever you're using. So it sends the data out through Passport, and it authenticates through Google. I mean, there was like two things. It's like Google uses OAuth 1 and OAuth 2.0. So the way Michael has it written now, I had it one way working that, but it just didn't work when I tried to use it in the app. So it's using like the OAuth, but then it's like calling the OAuth 2 strategy. It was just, I didn't really understand it initially, because when I tried to follow the Passport documentation, it didn't do that. And I know he used, there was a guide online that he found that they did it that way. I didn't really understand it. I just know that it worked. The Passport.
It's more than just a guide too, though, isn't it? I mean, you have to go to that, like, you have to sign into Google as a developer,
Yes.
go to that page, set up your
create your
key,
client,
Well, yeah,
ID,
yeah,
your
yeah.
client
Yeah.
secret, as well as your callback URL.
That I
your
was already
domains and
familiar with,
everything.
because I had already used the Google Developers API. So that wasn't confusing to me. And then Nick had shown me a tutorial of the Net Ninja guy where he literally walks you through everything. So that made, that made it a lot easier.
That is what I used. I just followed that step by step in Passport.
So your items were specific to the user, like it was a one-to-many, not a many-to-many?
Yeah, it was belongs to was the SQLize method that we utilized.
You didn't have to use
Yeah, it was just yeah the item because the nature of the app has that specific review, so it's like, what does this person think of this item? So it doesn't really make sense for that to be associated with many people, since there is that review section of it.
I have a suggestion. I actually think this is a cool idea. And not just for sharing, but for making notes on stuff. Like if you add like a private notes section, my wife tells me stuff all year long that I should get her.
Oh, that is a good
Or that I
idea.
should get for the kids or get for whatever.
Oh, I'm writing that down.
And I always forget, but I actually do have like folders in my bookmarks and in my Dropbox for that. So it'd be nice to have like a web-based
Right.
central repository with tags.
Use the notes app on my phone for that. I can't remember to do it on the computer.
How was your sharing with other people?
It would just be accessible through the URL, so you could actually just send the URL to them, and it would pull up that specific review.
So last question. What front end? Who's
We were front end.
Michelle.
So just walk us through the front end and what do you use and let's suppose you have more time. What's the more features that you
Let it go. Personal.
So we have an app bar that I don't know. I don't work with Heroku, so I don't know if we can The nav bar does pull out to other web pages that. No, it doesn't. I don't know how to work for it.
You have to scroll
Um,
on this one.
You have to move the
Oh.
mouse over on the screen.
Yeah, I'm
You have
trying to. I can't
the
do that.
screen.
Oh, Jill.
Oh, the
drive.
screen's over here. I'm working.
Yeah, that's why I'm like. And I'm blind to one eye. I can't do that. I'm trying to.
Oh no, that's the video recording.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's having
Okay.
fun.
So when you would click on the nav bar, it would have your books, your restaurants, your
Yeah, clicking on the hamburger
Music.
icon would give you the option to filter through
your reviews.
the different reviews, where you'd be able to see music that you reviewed, books, whatever, all the categories that are available.
What front end framework do you use to accomplish?
Bootstrap. And handlebars.
Good old handlebars.
We definitely loathe handlebars because handlebars did not want to function for us a lot of the time.
So originally we wanted the reviews to be like in the music and the books and those files, but those weren't, when you click on the music, so it wasn't generating, it was just giving you the 404. So we just brought it back here. We kept it simple, so at least you could put a review here, and it would click on, and it would list 3 of them, and then it would update. So the top one would be the most recent, and then it would go down. And unless you X'd them out, they were always there, but in the back end.
How was
So-
your intended view of implementing handlebars? Was it multiple views, one view of partial?
No partials. Partials. Didn't like partials.
And then
We originally had the idea that when there would be a separate page for the actual review. That was going to be one of the actual pages. When you filtered through, when you would click on books or movies or any of that, it would filter your reviews using the handlebars on this actual page.
And as
That's
you
how
see, we
we
got the
were.
log out. That was supposed to be a link to log
Yeah.
in. So originally that's where you would go and have bar to sign you out.
You know, one thing that you were talking like the passport thing.
Mhm.
The one thing that Net Ninja I learned from was just really segmenting things because it had like the passport. He made a separate passport JS file in the config. He had authorization routes. He had every single thing on separate routes, and that's one thing that I had done. And I know he probably just jammed it all together because we didn't really have time. But I mean, that would be one thing on the back end because it did make it just easier to just navigate your code because it wasn't, you knew where everything was. So that was helpful. It was learning,
Yeah.
even though it's not pretty, but we learned something.
Yeah, that's what it
that
counts.
was
Any other
pretty.
questions? Good. So this is still kind of tricky. So I'll keep the mouse here. You see, it's here. So you will have to see one of them. You know, designate a person and keep the mouse here, and then keep going through over here. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'll stay over here if you want navigation. Then I can.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, you can just hit the next arrow and
Yeah.
it should.
I'll try with that.
All right. Good. Okay. So our team is alive, not Alivi. But our team is alive. That is the name of our website. It's a fitness app for those on the move. And what we mean by that is, so our original idea, we had a problem where, you know, there's a lot of different fitness apps out there and you have to kind of like fiddle through every single day and you have all of this like extra information. So this is a dashboard style platform where you can just open up your front page and everything you need is right there at the click of a button for that day. So you don't have to like deal with going through all these different days or like having all of this extra information that you really don't need or use. So this is our team. We're on the front end we had Tyler and Mo or Mauricio, and then on the back end we had Kevin, this ninja over here, and myself, Alex. That's kind of how we split things up, although realistically we all kind of had a hand in everything. Can't say there's nothing we didn't touch really. So yeah,
All right. Let's bring it up.
run through how it works.
Please work.
Are you on this one?
Please clap.
Here. Let me see.
Oh God.
Why?
There's still the PowerPoint, right?
There it goes.
There it is.
So this is our dashboard. I'm sorry, you're talking through that. Just kidding.
All right, so this is the simple dashboard that she was referring to. Our initial look at this, we actually did kind of try to do with all the like other fitness apps, like really complicated stuff, and it created a lot of like interwoven systems. So we ended up just kind of breaking it all down into a lot smaller parts, and we were a lot better off for it. Now, so very first, I'll just give a demonstration, then we could talk about it afterwards. So first, we'll log in, and they implemented Passport and bcrypt to hash the password inside the database. So let's we got to sign up first. So let's do a name. Let's just do Prez at Prez at Prez.
Yeah, we don't have an email validation either at the moment. So put it in right the first time.
All right, and so we can put in our height. We can put our and by the way, these go to these. I know there's like a weird space here, but don't be confused by that. Yeah. Stop.
I mean, I'm slow, but I get there eventually.
Story of my life, dude. You're good. Hello? There we go. All right, so we'll go ahead and we'll create this user now. And then we can go back into here. So we had Prez at Prez.com. And then it was just Prez. And we hit log in. And now we're logged in. So right now we don't have any, oh goodness. I don't know what I did. How do I zoom out? Control.
Command Shift minus. Oh.
No, it's not over here. It's not over here. It's on this.
I don't use an Apple, right? I'm sorry. I feel like I like did this with my fingers.
Okay.
Pinch it.
Yeah.
Pinch it. Pinch it.
No. We zoomed out.
What you just did and then click reset.
Oh, that's. Hold on. I'm just gonna refresh this
I
page.
think it will come back to the same.
You're really. Alright, Command 0. Do Command 0.
Command 0. I'm following what this man says.
There we go. Thank you.
All right.
Alright.
All right. I'm gonna try not to do that again. So I'm gonna use the trackpad because that mouse is sketchy.
Okay, so, did you say what that button was?
Oh yeah. Let me. So.
Okay.
If we go into here, so go live is where we can actually add a workout. So if we hit here, it brings us to our add workout page, and then we can choose a workout. So we can do baseball for an hour, and then for right now we do have to choose a user. We know that's not optimal, but that's the way that it has to work for the moment. So we put it inside of Prez, and we hit submit. And bingo, we get some data. So it'll tell us part of today's result for the calories that are burned. She had a nice little equation going on inside in order for the calories that you would burn for that amount of time would work. And then you can also edit it right here if you would like. So we can click edit here. And then we could change it to badminton instead. And then we could submit it again. And then it would be right here again, so just change it to badminton. So if we go back to our dashboard, now we got some data. So we get today's results, which you guys saw, and then there's a goal calculated here. So this could be like a weekly goal that you're trying to get to, how many calories you want to burn inside of a week. Shows you how many times you've checked into the app. You've worked out for a total of 16 minutes. You obviously haven't worked out 19 times. And your goal weight is 165 pounds, what we put in the first place. And so it's a very, very simple app. Very, very simple on the front end especially, but it gives you a lot of data that you would like. We did start out with we wanted to have a schedule and all that, but it created a lot of interwoven systems. And when you have interwoven systems, they all react with each other, and it swings the pendulum really far sometimes. So we had to really kind of break things down and simplify it a lot.
Yeah, and that was going to be in the progress originally. So while we didn't want every single day to just be like we said, use simple user interface on the front, but the progress was originally going to be in your calendar, so you still could go back and see the data, but unfortunately, we were not able to implement that with the way that we set things up. Some fun facts for like the calculations and things. All of these were done on the back end through JavaScript calculations that we had a lot of fun doing. And the calorie goals is automatically done when you enter in your sign up. So that's something that's going to be pushed to the MySQL database. So it's always there and stored with that information. And anytime you update your goals, it'll automatically update your calories as well.
Yeah, that's right. And so for the front end with handlebars, everything that you see here is a partial. Like literally everything. We put except for the background picture. But everything else is a partial. There's only a few things in this that aren't partials, like the for example the go live page with the form. That's not a partial, but everything around it is. So we pretty much we just tried to break it down into smaller and smaller pieces and get it to work like that. And just so you guys know, if you ever try to use circles like this, like I did, that is responsive hell, like to get that to work. Because when you break it into circles, like once you shrink it down, it changes shape into like ovals, and it never looks right, or they stack on top of each other. Even if it's a bootstrap div, it doesn't matter. So that took me an ungodly amount of time to finally, yeah.
And then part of
it has a radial gradient color to make it look like a sphere. So it's just a color scheme that makes it look that way, but it looks nice in 3D, so it's kind of cool.
Can't see that. Okay. And then we just kind of wanted to show you, because we did discuss that our new technology was Passport and bcrypt. Oop, sorry. Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh, it doesn't show the pretty JSON.
Where's the prettier?
So we know this isn't optimal to be able to see this,
right?
But
normally
we want to show you
ignored.
how bcrypt works.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else used bcrypt.
Rude. Okay, so.
Right. Yeah. There's one of the passwords.
So here you can
right?
see
Yep.
this password, just so you guys.
Just copy and paste it.
Oh, zoom
Look
in.
up, just Google JSON parser. Copy and paste it in there. Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
I can do it. You guys go ahead.
Okay. So that was the new technology that we worked with, and thanks to Trevor and being super awesome, we were able to actually implement it. We didn't get it quite as secure as we wanted yet, obviously, mainly so that we could still show things through the presentation. But we did get bcrypt to work with the password. So anytime, if somebody did have access to our, if somebody did have access to our API, they could clearly not see somebody's password, which is really great. Like for example, this password is ASDF, but it encrypts it completely so that you can never even track that unless you actually had access to it. And even then, so it's only done through the login page, where it decides from bcrypt, it takes that password and decrypts this password, sees if they've matched, and then spits it back and says, yes, it's matched. If it doesn't, then it'll tell you it won't let you log in.
No.
So.
That's good. And it's also good to mention that we did have plans to throw in a chart that Mo worked really hard to create, and unfortunately just wasn't able to make it in. So he had a full schedule working where you could like drag and drop like the workouts and the days, and you could plan it out. But because we just simply ran out of time, we couldn't get it fully implemented. But it was really nice. So for future development, number one is absolutely that. Yeah. All right.
Any questions?
The calculations change based off of the weight and how
Yep.
it's-
Yep.
Where did you get the I'm assuming you're using maths for the calculating
So-
disclosure?
Yeah, so the calculations were a little funky to work with. We originally wanted to use an API, which we actually got approved for this morning. So fun fact. But no, we used just the basic calorie thing, and it was like if it's a female, use these calculations. If it's a male, use these calculations.
Right.
And we pulled their weight in from that user and plotted it. As a
Yep.
variable.
Every workout actually has a value on it. So like,
Right.
and it's calculated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like 3.5 calories at a minute. So it'd be 1, and then you run it through an equation which is accepted by a lot of health websites that we saw, just how to calculate like how many calories you burn per minute at a weight. And so we just ran that value through it, and that's how we get our result.
Sorry, I'm just really nerdy about this.
No, you're
I
good.
studied exercise
Oh
science.
yeah,
So,
yeah. We will say at this moment in time, it's probably not the most accurate calculation. But yeah, part of that was we also thought we were going to have an API the whole time and had to do calculations at the last minute. So math for the win.
I was just wondering if
Yep.
this had like continued physical activities, which gives you, which in order to calculate like a physical, like how many calories a person would burn, you would just look at the activity that they have, like they're doing. So like you can go look at baseball.
Bro.
To use your example, you see that it exerts 4 max.
Yikes.
And in that, then you would just multiply the patient's weight in kilograms times max times minutes of activity.
Right.
And then you would get the calories consumed.
I think we forgot to mention too a future development for this, as well as the calendar, was to have them be able to add food as well. So you could do like very similar to a MyFitnessPal where you can, when you go live, it's like add exercise, add food, and it'll automatically calculate like where you're at for the day. That was one of those things again.
In a score system as well. We wanted to add it like almost kind of. There's some apps out there that have really good ideas where if you hit like a certain milestone, you can set for yourself, you get like a certain amount of points. It just kind of gives you like a motivation to do it. We attempted at the very beginning. We had all these ideas in mind, and this is what I was talking about. That with the score and these calculations and stuff, they were all interwoven with each other, and so it was really hard to keep things under control. And we just didn't have enough time to do it, so we had to break it down into what we got here. But for future development, that would be something really really cool that we could put in.
Yes.
Are you familiar with the walk app? That you download on your phone? So you
Is it like Fitbit?
get, use your GPS on your phone, you go on a walk, and measures like how far you walk and how many times.
Oh yeah.
Do they have an API? That'd be pretty dope. Yeah.
It's called a walk app.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of different apps you can download, but it's using your actual phone. It's both talking and
Yeah.
Right.
We looked into some of those. Like we looked into the Fitbit one, but a lot of those like you either have to pay for the API keys
Or is watch specific and all
or
of them,
watch
too.
specific,
Yeah,
or you have to wait 3 weeks for the API to finally get approved. So there's that. But Matt, you had a question?
It's a really silly question, but how did you do the asymmetrical rounding on the class?
Oh, this right here?
Oh.
This is a border radius, 25%, 25%, 25%, 25%.
No, I mean the center box.
Yeah, these ones right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, border radius for 25%. So, yeah, it kind of rounds it out. And then I had to do some, I had to do some a little extra stuff to it too because it wasn't exactly perfect, but yeah, for the most part, that's how you achieve that. And how you get the circles is just border radius 50% in CSS. And then and I actually never knew that. It seems really simple, but I never knew that until I did it. And I was like, oh, that's kind of sick. And then so I just worked with it.
Anything else? Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All day, every day.
Yes. Like I said, we had a lot of systems that we were trying to work on simultaneously that we ended up pulling out.
Yeah.
And then also, I had to change the handlebars up completely. I literally had to pretty much redo it because I completely structured it wrong at first and didn't realize that I did until a little too late on. Because what I was trying to do is I was trying to get a schedule to populate in the middle, but I put it inside of another template and then I was compiling it. So when I was throwing it in, it was just like duplicating infinitely.
Mm-hmm.
And that's only when I started trying to put data into it. So it was showing up good at first, like when there was no data in it. But once I started to put data in it, it just would duplicate infinitely. It was horrible.
And then
So
because we were all working on things separately too, we definitely ran into like when merging the back end and the front end, we would run into merge conflicts. Like things would be named differently. Things were trying to think what other issues we ran into like that. But yeah, click events were and then when he did change the handlebar structure, that completely messed up a lot of our
so
calls.
broken. It was so broken.
Yeah, so like we didn't realize when we were pushing things into partials that it would completely change the JavaScript on our end. We did realize that, but like we didn't know that was happening at first. So then when we merged, it was like, what happened?
I did a good job fixing it though.
Yes. But so that Yeah, we did have some conflicts, but we got it together and
We hit a really nice groove. Well, I think what we did really, really well is like because at first we kind of had, with all these things, we kind of had too many directions and we didn't really know where to settle and like really what to focus on. What we did really well was kind of bringing everything back. Like we brought everything back in and then we started knocking things out like one after the other after that. And it was started getting really smooth. So, yeah. Like a lot of other people have said, this one was definitely one of the biggest learning experiences in anything that I've ever done with a lot of stuff, which is good. But I'm never using handlebars again. Just saying.
Never say never.
No, never.
never.
Walk in an interview and they say I'm using handlebars, I'm walking out. That's how it is.
Any other questions? Sweet.
Cool. Just want me to leave it? Just leave it?